afternoon, and also the same thing at the middle school. And then we also conducted a 24-hour count on First Street itself. The primary goal there was to determine what kind of traveling speeds we're facing, and also what the daily traffic of volume is at on First Street itself. So middle school intersections are right now 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So we just use a prorating method based on enrollment to determine what only 7th and 8th grade traffic would be. Estimated that to be applied into the analysis later. So the second step, as far as the analysis goes, is to use the Institute of Transportation Engineers trip generation manual. And that is basically a book of land uses for nationwide. Compare the data we're receiving at McPherson to nationwide averages. Turns out that there is a lot more, significantly more traffic coming to the schools in McPherson, Kansas, compared to the national averages. So the decision was to go ahead and use the data as is, just because it's more. Then we do what's called the capacity analysis. The capacity analysis tells us what kind of capacity is on the roadway to accommodate how much volume. The result of that is going to be delays experienced by the average driver, and also based on that delay, they rank A through F, A being very good, F being not so great, you're basically stopped, ranking is given. And then, so the purpose of doing the existing analysis actually is to document what's there now, and also see if there are any deficiencies that can be easily resolved. Things we found with the analysis was that High Drive intersection, the southbound left was close to capacity. Nationally, and even in KDOT and most agencies, they recognize the ranking system level of service D as an acceptable level of service. The High Drive intersection, the southbound left was at D, and Anna Street was at an E, both for the east and west legs. And that's primarily because there are no turn lanes on High Drive. And High Drive intersection is close to Meyer for one. And secondly, there are no turn lanes on First Street, so the traffic ends up waiting a lot. The left turn traffic waits a lot for all the traffic on First Street to dissipate before being able to go. So that was the cause, which is written over there. And so again, like I said, to fix any discrepancies, the first thing we see is there room to add turn lanes? Really, no. So then it comes to, okay, so we need to relook at the roadway network itself. The third step in the process is to actually assume that all the building is done and see what kind of traffic would come there. So for that to happen, we first isolated the high school traffic and then reallocated to the new roadway network, assign the middle school traffic to roadway network based on today's volumes, proportionally distribute them out, and then come up with what's called the site volumes, which is then added to the existing volumes to come up with existing plus site volumes. Existing plus site volumes basically means that every improvement is built up tonight, and tomorrow morning, that's the kind of traffic that's projected to be on the roadway system. And then we test what was initially provided as a roadway network to me by the architects, come up, perform a capacity analysis and determine if that's going to work or not, redo the roadway network a bit because of our existing conditions also, and do a capacity analysis. So it's basically an iterative process that we go through to meet our goals, to satisfy our goals, or actually exceed them most times is the goal. So in the version 1 plan, which is shown over here, the left side being the big scale of it. On the right side, I've just highlighted what's happening on First Street itself. Like I said, North High Drive intersection is about 340 feet away from Meyer Road intersection. Meyer Road intersection is a signalized intersection. Any delays that happen on High Drive, there will be an automatic spillback occurring onto Meyer Drive. And also, High Drive is extremely close to Meyer. The KDOTs in their access management policy guide suggest that signal spacing should be about a mile, but in a quarter mile to a mile. Quarter mile is the least, preferred is a mile. High Drive's 340 feet away, so there was no way to signalize it as it failed with the extra amount of traffic coming in. The other issue we ran into was that the middle school entrance, which is at the south parking lot entrance right now, did not generate enough traffic volumes for turn lane additions or possible signalization. So for traffic coming out of middle school, either in the east entrance or the parking lot entrance, they have to go across First Street, which is 4 lanes wide. Albeit the speeds are not that great, but still they have to jump across 3 lanes of traffic to complete their movement, which is not exactly a desirable situation. And the other issue was High Drive. All the high school traffic was going to be focused on High Drive itself. The High Drive would then be carrying a lot of traffic with limited improvement available on High Street. And so the congestion and backup may force some of the traffic to divert into the neighborhood, which is a residential neighborhood. And almost every residential neighborhood doesn't like excessive traffic running through their neighborhoods when it can be avoided. So in the version 2, this is the big picture again. Basically what we did, again, on the south side over here, First Street on the bottom of the page, we connected the high school parking lot to a combined entrance that's right in the middle between Meyer and Maxwell or 15th Avenue. And that Maxwell and Meyer are half a mile apart. So this ends up being a quarter-mile distance, which kind of satisfies what KDOT requirements are. The lanes, with increased traffic volume coming into the school now due to the combined entrance, we are now able to add a left turn lane, eastbound left turn lane entering the school, and also a westbound right turn lane entering the school, which will ease up traffic a lot. Coming out of the school, we have a 4-lane section for right lane, left lane, and inbound. There'll be 1 lane exclusively going to the high school and 1 lane exclusively going into the middle school for distribution. With the increased traffic volumes also, this intersection actually met the peak hour warrant. And so that assists us with helping safely moving the traffic in and out of the high school, in and out of the school campus, sorry. At Anna and Loomis Street on the left side of your screen there, we basically mimic Anna Street and Loomis Street intersection. So there will be a 3-lane section across the roadway. And this, through the capacity analysis, this was sufficient to move the traffic in and out of the school comfortably. So going back to my overall process, so we went through the results, developed a version 2 plan. And then with the version 2 plan, we checked lane warrants and also a signal warrants. And all movements are at a level of service D or better. Remember, most agencies prefer a level of service D or better during peak hours. The results are that turn lanes are needed and the peak hour warrant was met for the AM peak hour, which basically meets our goals over here. So the next steps involved in this study after this are, first thing, there is going to be some city coordination involved. We do need to present to them this report, make sure they're okay with the process and the results, make any modifications that the city wants. We also need to coordinate with the 4 property owners on the south side over here, and probably use the city's help to do this, to locate this intersection itself. The intersection is right now floating, could move either left or right, depending on where these 4 property owners agree to have a combined entrance or some version of that. We did look at other forms of traffic control too. One of the things we considered was a roundabout at High Street and East First Street. The challenge with roundabouts are great intersection control features. They are very safe because the entering speeds, exiting speeds are slow. But roundabouts like to have equal amount of volume coming from all approaches. High Drive is busy 2 hours of the day during the school hours. After that, it's not really busy and volumes are low and flat. Whereas First Street has a lot of traffic going east to west and west to east. So High Drive traffic will still suffer undue delays. The second issue with that is if the roundabout does get delayed a lot, we're going to start seeing spillbacks onto the Meyer Road signal intersection, which is not a good situation. We never want to spill back between intersections, so we don't want that to happen. And the third issue with the 2-lane roundabout, as on First Street, would be its footprint is going to be so large, we'll end up needing property from both on the west side and the south side to get such a large intersection control method in. Uh, One thing I do want to point out with this is there is no new property acquisition. If you look at the slide over here, everything that is going to get built, all road widening is going to happen into the school property. So we might need a few easements from the south side to actually build the intersection or signalize it, but there will be no permanent property acquisition with this project the way it is laid out now. I believe that's all I had to say. I'll take any questions anyone may have.
With your pointer, this is Kim, could you just show me the traffic flow of someone going east who would want to drop off a child at the 7th, 8th grade building, please?
Yes, this might be a better way to do it. And Brian or Kevin, if I say anything wrong, please jump in and correct me. So going east would be from town over here from North High Drive. They would enter this left turn lane and enter into the far lane over here and take a right in. And the intent is for them to go this way on the south connector. The primary desire there being to separate people from the parking lot crossing this roadway and also school buses parking over here. So auto traffic will be on the south side, take a left turn lane and go across here, turn around, drop their children off over here close to the plaza, where the children would then enter the middle school at that location. And they would exit out by coming back around here. And this will be a stop controlled intersection. They'll stop over here and then determine whether they're going left or right and take the appropriate lane.
So when they turn in from First Street, they'll turn all the way to the far right lane, not turn into that middle lane. Usually
No,
when you
the
make
middle,
a turn, you have to turn to the nearest lane and then you would need to merge in, but your plan was for them to turn all the way to the far lane. Is that
yes,
right?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am, because we're basically trying to optimize the space we have over here. And that's why I extended this turn lane all the way. Even though this right turn lane doesn't need to be this long, I preferred to have a longer turn lane just to make it easier to get traffic off of First Street.
So both
I have
the
a question.
people coming from both of the people going east and going west will turn into the exact same lane?
Yes, ma'am. But they have plenty of capacity over here. So there will not be any spillbacks occurring onto First Street because of this.
With all due respect, that's not going to work. You can't have traffic turning into the same lane. That's not a standard traffic flow. When you're turning going eastbound off of First Street and you're making the furthest most right turn into that far eastern lane and you've got the same traffic in, that is a total mess waiting to happen. There needs to be some way that that traffic turning eastbound into the high school parking lot needs to have the ability to merge over and get over to the right. Having them go into that same lane, that's going to be worse than the situation we have right now at the middle school campus.
Well, I will analyze that. And one idea that comes to me, but I need to make sure and analyze that, is to have this lane turn it into this lane exclusively. And then, like you mentioned, do a merging weave over here. If they're going to the high school, they'll change a lane and go through there. If they're going to the middle school, the left turners will turn into the middle lane, do a merging maneuver, and go into the middle school.
Legally, that's the way they're going to have to. When you turn and make a left turn, you don't turn onto the furthest most lane. That's not the way the law reads when you merge into traffic.
The law reads, if it's a dual turn lane, then you turn into your own lane. If it's a single turn lane, turning into two different lanes, you can occupy either of the lanes. And so in this case, and this is a setup that's commonly used in mall entrances, and many high school entrances also have this. And the primary reason being to dissipate traffic away from the public street system as quickly as possible. But this is definitely an option where this right lane feeds into this right lane, and then this left lane feeds into this left lane, and they merge in to get over. The traffic volumes, predicted traffic volumes from both sides are approximately the same.
Okay, and that would explain your recommendations for drop-off. When parents pick up their kids, they have to park and wait for them to.
Kid comes out, gets into the parent's car or the whoever's picking them up's car, and then they leave. The parent does not leave the car; they stay in queue, and that has been the most for about 40, I don't know, 60, 70 school studies I've done. That has been about the most efficient way to operate during pickup. Any other way where the parent actually stops and walks to pick up their child has been extremely inefficient and has caused much delays. And with there are kids running across streets that shouldn't be doing that. They're crossing traffic flow streams, etc. I mean, Brian can vouch for this too. We've done about 60, 70 projects together, and every one of them we have turned around and recommended that parents stay in the queue with their car, and the child finds the car in a disciplined manner. It is going to take some staff coordination to make sure the children get out in a disciplined fashion, but we don't want them crossing any streets, crossing any traffic streams.
Okay, so once you do that fork right at the stadium, there are actually 3 lanes all the way along here so that parents can stay in their car, and when their kid comes, they can pull out around the car in front of them and then go make that loop. I thought you had originally said it was 2 lanes, but if it's 3 lanes, then I see where that.
No, ma'am, this will be 2 lanes only. So the cars come in here, they go around here, turn around, and they're staying in their lane. There is no through traffic coming from the north over there.
But let's say I'm waiting for my child at, you can't see me point, at the G on middle school parking.
You won't be waiting there, ma'am. The design is, no, we're not going to have traffic stacking here. Sorry.
Let's say if I'm waiting at any point along the path, nobody behind me can go.
This is the pickup zone. Can you see my mouse?
Okay.
That's the pickup zone.
With the stacking operations there, what schools have done to keep that in an efficient and safe manner is that they'll have 4 or 5 cars pick up students at one time, and then proceed. The next cars come, pick up the next set of students, and can keep that as a monitored area there for pickup, where students, where cars can, a set of cars can pick up students, leave, the next cars come, and so the line can keep moving, and that way you don't have cars, kind of weaving in and out there or around other vehicles there. So the school can manage that drop off there, kind of in that plaza area there on that east drive.
Where my mouse is, ma'am, that is going to be the location of the first car that's ready to pick up that child and point it the correct way.
Okay, and so if there are 50 other cars behind this car, because there could easily be at least 30 to 50, if they all get their students and this student happened to have to go back to their locker to get a book and they're taking longer, everybody here just waits until that first car student gets in the car and goes?
Okay, for the scenario you explained, so student shows up to the car, forgot something, and they have to go, that car is just going to have to pull into a parking spot and wait for their students so they don't hold the traffic back.
Or get back into the queue of vehicles or drop.
Yeah, and I'm just going to weigh in a little bit on. I think that some of this is protocol that we need to fix. That we actually would spend time with staff, principals, everyone there talking about, how we do it, because now we'll be doing something totally different than we have at the middle school. And so there will have to be some identified protocol, whether it's that's only 2 lanes or whether it is 3 lanes, I think that is definitely something that we should be looking at, Kim, because I get it. I totally understand what you're saying. I don't want to stand behind 10 cars or even one car if I can leave safely. So and I think that would be best protocol by staff and to kind of identify what they would want to see.
Sashi, I have another question for you.
Yes, sir.
So getting back to that turning lane off of First Street, I just took a minute. I reviewed the statute that covers turning left under Kansas Statutes Annotated 8-1545. And it specifically states under paragraph 2 under left turns that the driver of a vehicle intending to turn left shall approach the turn in extreme left-hand lane lawfully available to traffic moving in the direction of travel of such vehicle. Whenever practical, a left turn at the intersection shall be made to the left of the center of the intersection, and any left turn shall be made so as to leave the intersection or other location in the extreme left-hand lane lawfully available to traffic moving in the same direction as such vehicle on the roadway being entered. What reference do you have of KDOT saying that that was going to be legal?
Well, sir, in the statute that you read, it does not mention a dual or a single left turn lane. So KDOT specifications for pavement marking actually clearly state that if it's a 1 lane turning into 2 lanes, you may occupy both lanes. If it's a 2 lane turning into 2 lanes, then you turn into the leftmost lane. The statute does not actually does not specify that if it's a 1 lane, and it says in the statute you read actually states that they can legally go occupy any lane headed in the same direction that is to the right of the center line. So both lanes are legally occupiable in the same direction. And so therefore they can occupy either lane.
I would respectfully disagree with that, but I have one other question for you pertaining to the area where buses were going to be parking. Can buses only park on the east side then there, or where are they going to be allowed to park?
Buses are going to enter through that eastern entrance. This is a bus only lane. There will be a sign saying it's a bus entrance only. Buses will come in from here. They will do this loop, stack up over here away from the cars, and then they will exit they will have to exit this way using the signalized intersection to dissipate into town.
I have a question, Sashi. Thank you for providing this information to us. I think this is the second time we as board members have seen this, so I appreciate your time today. The entrance off of First Street and the bus lanes that we were talking about, this is not something unique to McPherson, right? This is something that you work on as a professional in this field and set up for various different schools.
Yes, ma'am, we do. And most of them, Brian and I do actually go and look at the operations after everything is built. I wish we could get it 100% right the first time, every time. But there are minor tweaks we end up doing at the end of operations. And most times, the intended design does work. One of the things that schools that we found extremely successful in school traffic flow is to separate the bus and auto traffic. That way the buses, which normally come in early, leave earlier than the cars. They are not delayed, and buses carry a lot more students than the cars do. And the cars riders are dismissed normally a little later. When I say a little later, I'm talking 3-5 minutes later, and they then start dissipating. So in reality, this bus lane would be empty by then because the buses are loaded and gone. And then the cars would start approaching. But you are right. This is a setup we've used in multiple locations successfully.
And this is also something, oh, sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I'm sorry, and I was just going to add to Sashi's comments that as Kevin mentioned, that we'll work with the middle school staff, with their administration, with that to develop a plan that they're comfortable with, that they can stagger some of that as they need to with the car and bus operations, and make sure they're comfortable and have a plan to work with both buses and cars there.
Right, and this is also all something that gets evaluated with the city and through the building process if we get to that point as well, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Correct.
A couple of things I want to add here. So right now we're assuming that all high school traffic and middle school traffic is on the roadway at the same time. In reality, that's not the truth. The stagger time right now is about 20 minutes. So high school starts at 7:50, middle school starts at 8:10. One of the suggestions I'm going to make is to push that off a little bit more to about 10 minutes. So the difference in time is about half an hour. And that is just going to help manage your roadways better, in the sense the high school would be where they need to be or away, and the middle school traffic will start showing up. So it's just a better, it's called traffic demand management. So you don't end up building extremely wide roads that, honestly, tractors have to maintain. So the staggering is going to be a very beneficial thing. As far as setting up the protocols, etc., Brian and I worked on a project on Prairie Village, and they had no room in the school to actually stack cars. So we developed a plan where they were going to use residential streets around the block and made flyers, etc., gave to the principal, and they enforced that. And that school works. It's Briarwood. If you ever come to the Kansas City area, if you want to look it up, and it works great. I mean, parents got the idea. They all stay in line in a disciplined fashion. Staff help the kids find their parents, and everything clears up in about 10-15 minutes.
And this plan actually allows for most of that traffic to be on campus as opposed to in a neighborhood in that situation, right?
Correct. So this will be, yes, correct. Stacking would be accommodated on this plan on the property.
And so I just want to be clear overall with the traffic study, the proposed plan as it sits right here with the traffic flows, with the recommendations you've made, will be handled appropriately. Like the traffic flow fits for this space.
Yes.
I think there's a clarification there, though, with respect to handled appropriately. There's a lot of unknowns still to be worked out. Would that be fair to say, Sashi?
No, sir. I have finished my analysis, and everything works, meets criteria, meets what the field suggests, and what most agencies prefer. I have finished almost all. I mean, I finished all my analysis.
But what we will do, Dale, is take all of Ashashi's analysis and direction and use it to do what Brian and I were talking about, is make sure that we do work through all of the details of signage and sizes of roads and all that, based on sizes of roads on internally, the internal structure. I think the external structure, and if it warrants that third lane for the westbound on First, then I'm sure that we'll have that in there. But yes, we still have all the nasty details to work out.
I think my concern, though, with that is, bringing up some of these things that we've talked about during this presentation, some of the factors that are involved. I mean, we can look at that on paper and say, well, this meets the criteria, but we haven't seen a live working flow of that. And granted, there's always going to be some unknowns to any plan, but I still think there's some traffic flow issues, most definitely with this turning lane issue off of First Street. And I anticipate a bigger issue in the afternoon, like some of the other board member mentioned, that where traffic is going to be parking and waiting on their kids to be picked up, and there's going to be buses there and activities. I anticipate that to be a concern of many patrons of the district.
I think change, is always hard, even when it comes to pick up and drop off. But once everybody understands the procedure and they understand how much safer it can be, and the staff is included and the kids all understand that, it will be a non-issue once we all get in the routine of it.
I had just a couple of more questions. If I am someone walking and I am on the south side, where is the plan for me to safely get over to the high school, but more specifically the junior high?
So the signal will have pedestrian indications and a pedestrian face built into it. So to cross, so this location may move a few feet this way or this way, but wherever it is, there will be a crosswalk dedicated either on both sides of the roadway. So if you're coming from the east side, you would cross in here, and there is potential you'll have to cross in over here too. So one of the things the city might actually tell us, and I might discuss with them, is to not put a crosswalk over here to prevent students from walking across over here. Instead, to walk them over here where there's no traffic, and then cross them over here and enter from this on this walkway right through there into the high school. If they're going to the, into the middle school, sorry. If they're going to the high school, the potential, again, like Kevin and Brian mentioned, there are some fine details we need to finish. Really does need to be a high connection over here somewhere so they can walk into the high school.
Okay, and at the last presentation, I might have totally dreamt or imagined this because I didn't see it when I was looking through the materials, but I thought that someone had said that the traffic light duration would be a minute. Did I imagine that?
No, you did not imagine that. So traffic light durations are, so based on the traffic over there, what traffic lights are normally, they have a natural cycle length to dissipate the traffic most efficiently. And the natural cycle length could be anything from 25 seconds to 200 seconds, but most agencies end up deciding that their minimum cycle length would be a 60 and their maximum could be 120 seconds, depending on the agency. Overland Park, for example, their minimum is 120 seconds and their maximum is 240 seconds. Of course, they're pumping, many cars through one intersection. This doesn't require that. So probably when I ran the numbers, the natural cycle length came out to be 65 seconds. And that is something city staff constantly monitor to make sure that people are not excessively delayed. Almost all city have traffic engineering staff that do that exclusively. They monitor the signals and adjust signal timings as required. And these things have become so good now they can actually sit at the desk and do it. So they're all communicating directly to them, and they've become really fancy nowadays. So.
Okay. And on the diagram, okay, just clarify for me, at this traffic signal, the people headed west that are turning right in that special right turn lane, they are affected by the signal? Because in the diagram that I got to review, it showed it as being where you turn off to the right before the signal would affect you. Are they affected by the signal or not? Did I ask that in a way that was clear?
Yes, you did. So this right turn would essentially have to yield either to this through movement or this left movement. If this through movement is stopped, and for example, if this left is going, this right turn has nothing stopping them because the traffic volumes coming from the storage places on the south side is not much at 7 to 8 in the morning or 3 to 4 in the afternoon when school is dismissing. So they really, all they need to do is stop and go. It's in my 26 years of experience, I've always found that having somebody coming to a point and then going is a safer way to do it than making it appear that they have a free lane. Just because if you put an island here and make it appear they have a free lane, in case this movement is green, that's not a good result. So bringing them to a point and then making them turn is always a safer alternative in my 26 years of experience.
Okay, so that will be true for the people that are headed west. They will stop before they
will
turn
be stopped, yes. And as Mr. Dale mentioned, now this one has its own lane. So, there's no reason we should not put an island over here to where we force this right turn into that lane. But again, that's some of the little fine details that we just need to work out as to what's acceptable to the city, what's not acceptable to the city. General rule of thumb is if there's a right turn lane, turning in its sole right turn lane, an island is okay. If it's a right turn lane merging onto another lane, then an island is not preferred.
Okay, and this could as a parent who did the middle school drop off and pickup for years and did some of it at the high school too. When I look at this, I would do anything to avoid that loop that involves going all the way back to the roundhouse. And myself and any parent who thinks like me, which you guys can make all sorts of judgment calls on that, will use the Cedars for a drop off. They've got a parking lot, they've got a loop. I could avoid First Street. I would use the church and then let my child walk over towards your protected or the stoplight, or use the apartments because I can go right, drop off my child, go around and turn right. Unless it was raining, then I would make this loop. And while that may not be true of all people, that is the way a lot of us parents who do drop off and pick up will think.
I'm a parent too, ma'am, and of both a middle schooler and a high schooler. And no, you are thinking in the right terms about how to do it right, how to do it efficiently is your thought process. The way our middle school is set up, our drop-off actually weaves around the school district's swimming pool parking lot. And I mean, literally weaves between lanes. And then we come out by the area where we drop off and then do another big loop to go all the way around the school to get back to the public street system. This is a very, very, very efficient system to do it. I would be surprised if you're waiting any more than 10 minutes to 15 minutes to drop off or pick up your child in this system. And it's all safe, away from cross traffic. The child doesn't see any cross traffic at any point in time.
I'm also not sure why we would be second guessing what we've hired experts to tell us and making plans to not follow a system that has worked with many other districts that our experts are telling us will work, and then suggesting that we would use other roads because it might be better. That's not something we should be conjecturing about at this point. This was a study that I think you, Kim, and Dale wanted to have done. It was done by the experts, and the information that was provided by the experts should be relied upon to move forward if the bond passes.
Kim, with all due respect, this is a time that we can ask questions, and I don't appreciate you disregarding something that I've asked. That's what this is for. Please be respectful.
I didn't disregard anything, Dale. Thank you.
And then just one other clarification question. Did I understand correctly that there would just be one signal light required at that intersection and that the estimated cost was $350,000 for that signal? I was just trying to remember what we had been told in our other information section and making sure that was right.
Yes, ma'am. Nowadays, signals are running about 350,000 bid price on the average. I mean, it depends on the size of signal, depends on a lot of factors. But yes, they are running about 350,000. And yes, you will need one signal system over here.
And other than that hour for at the beginning of school and the end of the school, the rest of the time it just flashes yellow. Is that right?
No, that is something federally they are avoiding nowadays, just because there ends up being a disregard for the light system. So this signal will be what's called an actuated signal. And depending on cities' preferences, it could either be video actuated or a radar actuated signal. And as soon as the side street traffic is detected by the computer, then the first street traffic will be stopped, so the side street traffic can get out. That is during non-usage hours. So it'll stay green. And once in a while, they do set it up to cycle to the side street, just in case there's somebody who's not in the right position or the radar didn't pick them up. They don't want people waiting there forever. So federally, again, that's mandated to where you have to cycle through the side street once in a while. So we have a very similar arrangement in our high school. And if you want to look it up, it's Lee Summit West High School. And so the side street is actuated. And during off-peak hours, there's nobody on Ward Road really. And so, but when we show up on the side street, on the school street, Ward Road traffic is stopped. And we finish our turn and go on, go on Ward Road, basically. So there will be actuated signals, though.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kevin, can you maybe briefly just kind of talk to how that all fits in the budget or the budget presented?
Sure. We always knew that we would have to go through a fairly significant design process for access and egress from the site. So we identified over $1 million in offsite improvements. I think it's 1.6 actually. And those offsite improvements included anything that we would have to do on the roadway system, as well as some of the, if we needed to do anything on the waterway. We also have, and Luke can verify this with me, that we also have dollars on site, and those are included in the construction costs at this time.
Right, that's correct. So the proposal that you're looking at now can be accomplished with the current bond amount budget that's been set.
And that would include even like stoplight work noted?
Yeah, the stoplight work and the turning lanes and the interior road system also.
Yes.
Oh, and I'm sorry, I think this is a really quick question. What would we need from the property owners on the right, or on the south side of First? Because it didn't seem like it affects them at all.
So when you're building something like a signal, there will be a little bit of spillover, just, natural building process. So to play it safe, normally engineers take easements, temporary construction easements, and that's all it is. That's still a property process, but it's just a temporary construction easement.
Okay, thank you.
So what I'm hearing is that our budget would support this work. All of the traffic in queue would be on campus, not in neighborhoods. North High wouldn't have any of their property taken, no property on the First Street. It would only be school property that would be taken for those turning lanes. So I think those are my major takeaways. Does anybody have anything else to add to that?
I mean, I think from my perspective, as we put this on the agenda to discuss it, was obviously each of you as board members were able to see part of this, and we wanted to make that publicly out there, that information is there. It's a report, really a lot of the specific decisions on whether that's a turning lane that's specific one way or another isn't determined by this report right at this moment. There can be design changes. That's correct, Kevin, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we have to get into the fine details of everything, just like the front entry, the gymnasiums, the commons, all of those things, the very particular things. We'll get into that in depth. Yes.
And I understand everyone has the ability or the right to have different perspectives on it. Really, the goal was the study was completed. We wanted to make sure it was public as possible. in not having a normal meeting scheduled. We wanted this in the special meeting so the information is available to whoever wanted to view it.
Is there a motion today, or is it, or was it for information only?
No, there's no motion. I was just getting unmuted. So Shashi, Brian, Luke, Kevin, thank you guys so much. And Mr. Berg, we'll want to transition here in a moment. I want to make sure that we had Brian Bina jump on, and he needs to be done by 5 o'clock. So I'll clarify a couple of points, and if just as the final part of the superintendent report, that it may be worth skipping to 4.1, and then we can get to new business after we're able to connect with Mr. Bina. But just wanted to clarify. So again, Shashi, thank you so much for your time today and for that report. Let me clarify just one thing, and then I think it'd be wise to transition so that we take advantage of Mr. Bina's time. One of the things, Shashi, can you do me a favor and unshare your screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. During this process through the visioning process, one of the things that was, and so I'm talking a little bit to you about the interlocal agreement information. I've had some folks ask about what's the interlocal agreement, what's the language of the interlocal agreement between the city and the school district related to this process. And there's a couple of things that I guess I would note on that is that number one, the interlocal agreement does not get formalized or drafted or formalized until after a successful bond election. And so that language isn't there. It's not available. It's an understanding between really an understanding that between the city and the district that a couple of things will occur. Number one, the taxing revenue from this half-cent sales tax will support the bond project. That'll be articulated and defined about start times, and then when that revenue will be expected, and all of that thing will be laid out in the interlocal agreement. It's important. I would just remind you, this group, school districts in Kansas only have one mechanism for taxing. That is through bond and interest property tax, which is what this bond project is. It's what we're asking our voters to weigh in on June 8th. The city has the ability to generate sales tax, which they're also partnering with us on through this project. And that's, of course, what the second question is for citizens in McPherson. As a part of that, throughout this project, there was a time that it came to be understood that as partnering with the city, they were interested in obtaining the small portion of ground between Eisenhower's parking lot up north and between Main Street. Specifically, the mayor has referenced using that as a future fire station for the city. And so that would be something that would be specifically articulated, agreed upon, formalized in an interlocal agreement that would occur after a successful bond. What I've recently had a question about that is, so is the fire station a part of the bond? The answer is no. The fire station is not a part of the bond. Everything that's the scope of work identified in the bond is what the bond will build. The portion of ground would be settled in the interlocal agreement, agreed upon and formalized after a successful bond election. And at that time, that property is the only thing that would go to the city, and then the city would eventually need to plan and budget accordingly for what that fire station would look like. Just wanted to clarify that
But this is the only time we're talking about that during this meeting?
I can talk and can answer questions now. I just want to be respectful of Mr. Bina's time. So if we need to talk after executive session, then we could do that as well.
Okay, I do have some questions on this, but if you want to wait, that's fine. I just didn't want to not ask them and have you consider this point closed. So
sure.
If Mr. Bina is on a tight schedule, then I think we need to respect that time.
Let's Mr. Berg, my suggestion So would be, let's transition to item 4.1 so that we can let Mr. Bina share the information that he needs to. And then when we convene and he's able to get to his next appointment, and then we can finalize the questions about the interlocal agreement and item 3.1.
Okay, so let's go ahead and table the rest of this superintendent